Okay, welcome to class on leadership research and APA. Basically, this class should have been recorded a while ago because I really wanted to get everybody a chance to learn about APA. I posted the PowerPoint, but I realized it also helps to hear the professor talk about it. So let's go through this and talk about it. Okay, so plagiarism is any time you're using someone else's ideas and not giving them credit for it. Plagiarism occurs when you summarize something or cite or directly quote something that you're not giving them credit for. APA fixes that and allows people to use other people's ideas in their work to support their own ideas. So APA allows that use of other people's work in order to support anything that you wanted to say or that you wanted to include. Today we're going to go over citation versus references. We're going to look at summarizing versus quoting, and we're going to talk about how to cite websites. I realize that the OWL at Purdue doesn't always give the best information for websites, so you would have to use the APA book, and sometimes that isn't the best either. Okay, so citations versus references. Citations are the little things in parentheses that go in your paper. They are used when you are summarizing or when you're quoting. Anytime you're using some other person's idea. If the idea didn't come out of your head from your own personal knowledge, then it needs to be cited. And when you're using a summary, so if you're summarizing work you read in the book or on the internet, you want to introduce the beginning of the paragraph with a citation. So you might want to say, Norhaus says that trait theory is blah, blah, blah. You don't quote him, but you summarize it in your own words. Then you may say another sentence from Norhaus. You may say another idea from Norhaus. And then you don't have to cite it again until you're finished using information from the book. And at the very end of that, you probably want to put parentheses at the end of the sentence and Norhaus, 2013. So you bookmark, you bookend where you're using ideas from another source. You start off referencing it and then you end referencing it in a summary. In a quote, you would have to actually put the page number, and the citation always goes after the quote with the page number. I'll show you that in a minute. So references are what goes on the end of your paper. It tells the reader where to find the information you cited. Ultimately, APA is a map. The citations are the first step in the map, and they tell you where to go in the reference list to find the reference that you were talking about. The citation should always be the author's last name and the year. Sometimes it has the page numbers for direct quotes. Or if there's no author, then it would be a web page name and the year. But either way, it tells you where to go in the reference list. So you can look at the first word in the citation, and you should be able to scan down the list of references and find that reference very easily. The references then tell people where to go in the world to find the paper. A website reference will tell you where to go on the internet. A book reference will tell you where to go in the publishing world. Where's the publisher of this book? And a journal reference will tell you where the journal article is. What journal is it in? Where is it located? That allows people to go and find out more information. It's not to keep you from cheating. APA is designed to allow people, when they read something that you wrote and found it interesting, to go and actually find that reference and look and find more information on it. So it's a map. It's a map to what you're using. Now, here's some examples. So if you are having a summary, so the original work is up here in yellow at the top. An ambitious alternative to solely or mainly relying on a set of interviews is to carry out an ethnography, blah, 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 blah. Now, I want to summarize that because I want to talk about how can I use ethnography in my paper. So I summarize it by saying ethnography can be an explorative way of working with unstructured data if it's case-oriented, or it could be the observation of naturally occurring events. Now, since I summarized that from the author, I put the author's last name, Alverson, and the year, 2013, at the end of that sentence because that was a summary. Then you always end a summary with information that you have from your own brain of why you wanted to use that information. So I say, I believe that I can do an ethnography in this situation because it's an observation of something that's naturally occurring in my area. Now you see that some of the words are repeated. The idea, though, is it's my idea that I can use an ethnography to describe the situation I'm talking about. That's my idea. But it was Alverson's definition of ethnography that I was summarizing, so I had to quote him in the first part of that, or had to cite him. Now for a quote is when you use the exact words. Now keep in mind, summarizing isn't just changing every third word. It is completely saying something in a different way than the author said it, but still using their ideas. A quote is using the exact words, and in this case I say I want to do an ethnography of my work because, as Alverson says, so since I use the author's name, I don't have to use it in my citation. And then I go on, ethnography, ... that means I'm leaving something out, that's a word I added, so it's in brackets because I added that word to make the sentence flow. Any study involving the observation of what is referred to as naturally occurring events. End with a quote, and then you put the citation, 2003, page 4. You always put a page or a paragraph number for a quote, a direct quote. I put a quotation mark at the end, parentheses at the end of that, and then a period. Now, I could also just introduce the quote in my sentence like as part of the sentence. Ethnography is any study involving observation of what is referred to as naturally occurring events. Quote. And then the citation goes after that. I use the author's name because I didn't use it in the text. Alverson, 2003, page 4. That's why I think I can use it in my work. Anytime you use material from someone else, you want to set it up in your own words to match the idea you're trying to communicate. So if you want to tell me that Abraham Lincoln is a transformational leader, first you need to tell me what is a transformational leader. So you would need to quote the book, Northhouse, to describe what that is. Then you would want to tell me how Lincoln matches that. And if you got that information from a biography.com or from another website, you need to cite that website for the information that you're using. But you also need to use your ideas so you can connect your ideas together. So you would cite Northhouse for the definition of transformational leadership. You would cite the Lincoln biography for some of the events that showed you that. But then in your own words, you can say, based on the definition of transformational leadership and these different examples I've given you, I believe that Lincoln was definitely a transformational leader. So now you're telling me why you used that information that you just used. So citations are what goes in the text, like I said. For a summary, you just need the author's last name and the year. For a direct quote, you need the page number. If the direct quote is from a website, then you use paragraph number, P-A-R-A period, for the paragraph number. For a website that doesn't have an author, which most good websites will have an author, so it's very unusual for an authentic, good website to not have an author. If it doesn't have an author, then most likely it's just a common informational site that is not well supported, so you probably would not want to use that as one of your sources. But if it doesn't have an author, and you then use the web page title in the citation. And if the webpage title is really long, like Leadership is Fun for All, you would just want to use the first 3 words, and you put them in quote marks to show that that is a shortened title. So Leadership is Fun, quote, quote, comma, 2008. For a website with an author, you cite it exactly like you would a book, Jones, 2009. If there is no date on the website, which again, it's very rare for a website to not be copyrighted, so you just look for the copyright date at the bottom of the website. It's usually there. You would say in period, D period, though, if there's no date. So the other thing to remember with citations is any information you use in the sentence, you don't have to use the reference at the end, the citation at the end. So if you say Clausen, 2009, said, and then you're quoting hi, you would need to finish the quote with page 6 because that was the only thing left out from the quote. Now, if you weren't quoting and you were summarizing, all you need is Clausen 2009 talked about leadership when he mentioned trait theory. You would only have to do that. So that's following up. Clausen 2009 talked about how to say hi many times. So that's a summary, but I use the author's name of the year. Never, ever, ever use titles of work. We don't use titles of work in APA. So you don't say Norhaus Leadership. What is the name of Norhaus's book? I don't even know off the top of my head. I was just using it the other day. Well, it is hidden from me at this point. But, oh, nope, here it is. Leadership Theory and Practice. There you go. So you never would say, leadership in the book Leadership Theory and Practice. We don't do that, not in APA. You may do that in MLA or some other English-based referencing system, but not APA. So you always use the author's last name or the website or web page name. If you have more than one author, the first time you list those authors, you must list all three of them. If you have 3 or more authors. If you have 1 or 2 authors, you always have to list their name. But if you have 3 or more, you only have to list their names one time, and then from then on you can say et al., which means and more in Latin. And that will cover the rest of those people. Okay, so websites. This is where the OWL website is not as clear, and I wanted to give everybody this just to remind people of this. So you want to get as much information as you can from the website. That usually means you need to gather the author's name, the year it was copyrighted or written, and the web page name. There's also the website name, and then there's also the web address. And all those are the things you're going to need to do your reference. So for this first one, we have an author, Landis B., and the article was published on the internet in 1996. The name of the webpage is Carlisi Indian Industrial School History, and it was retrieved from home.epics.net, Landis History HTML. So in this reference, then, I have everything I needed, and it's in the right order. I have the author, the year, the web page name, and then the web address where it was retrieved from. Now, if you don't have an author, then the web page name moves up to the front. You still have then the year, and then you would say the website name. Now, the difference between the web page name and the website name is the web page name is what is at the top of the page that you're looking at, the title of that article or that page or that information. If you're using an online dictionary, the web page name is the word you looked up. That's what's at the top, the word or idea you looked up. The website name is the overall website. So for this first example, the website name is home.epics. That's the website name. Now, obviously, that's some kind of hosting site for that this author published their history on. But that would be the name of the website. In the second example, Leadership and Justice is the name of the web page. There's no date, and then it's in the Servant Leadership website. And then you still do the web address at the end. Remember, the web address is the actual cut and pasted web address that you would use. So the third example here is what would happen is if there wasn't a web page name, then you just move the website to the front, and then you would just have the website, the year, and retrieve from the web address would be the only thing that you needed. Now, the citations for all these things are like below. Landis, 1996, would be the citation for the first one. Leadership and Justice.m.d. for the second one. Servant Leadership.n.d. for the third. And then keep in mind that if the title was Leadership and Justice for All, you would just use the first 3 words and put those in quote marks. Remember, you need to find an author and a date for the website. The copyright date is there. Use the most recent. Do not put a range. We also don't use months and years anymore, months and days. We just use the year. It's the only thing you need in the citation. Without an author, use the web page name. If there's no web page name, use website name. If there's no date, use N period, D period. Now, I have had people try to, if there's no author, put NA for no author, but that does not work. You cannot do that. So remember, it is best to have an author, a year, web page name, web address. If you can't, the web page name goes first, then the year, then the website name, then the web address. And then if you have to, finally, the website name, year, web address. The main thing to remember is APA is standardized. A reference will always look like the other reference, even if it's a book or whatever else it is. You'll always have something in the front, a year in parentheses, a title of some type, and then where to find the information, either a web address or a publisher or a journal name. Either one of those, but it's always going to look the same for a book, a journal, an author. The information may be a little different, but the format is exactly the same. So when you look down your references, if you don't see the references looking exactly the same, something is up. You need to fix that. Finally, the OWL website at Purdue, you can go here, you just type OWL APA, has great reference and citation information. It's easy to read, easy to understand. Like I said, the only thing I don't think is super clear is electronic sources, which is why I wanted to record this for you. Be sure to watch, be sure to keep your APA on track. Remember, for the final papers, the final wikis, anything that you may be doing that is a summation of everything from class, you need to have references at the very end, and you need to have the citations throughout, and you're going to need to make sure they're right and they match. You should never have a reference that you don't have a citation for, and you should never have a citation you don't have a reference for. Okay, so please email me if you have any questions. Sorry it took me so long to get this up and posted, but I think that it's going to be good for your final papers.